Take off your helmet in the vacuum of space, and you have about 15 seconds before you black out. But here's the thing. What happens in those 15 seconds is almost nothing like what the movies have shown you. You don't instantly freeze into a solid block of ice. You don't swell up and explode, and your blood does not boil in your veins. The truth is stranger, and in some ways far more disturbing than any science fiction film has ever dared to show. Because the human body was built for exactly one place in the entire universe, and the moment you leave it, space begins taking that body apart. To understand what space does to you, you first have to understand what it actually is. Space isn't cold in the way you think. It isn't even really empty in the way you think. Space is a vacuum, a near-total absence of pressure. And it turns out that a lack of pressure is one of the most violent things that can happen to a living body. Right now, every square inch of your skin is being pushed on by the weight of the atmosphere. Your body pushes back with exactly the same force. You live in a perfect, invisible balance. Now remove that outside pressure completely in an instant. Suddenly, your body is pushing out against nothing at all, and that is where the 15 seconds begins. The very first thing that happens is in your lungs, and it comes with a warning that every astronaut is trained to obey. Do not hold your breath. On Earth, holding your breath is harmless. In a vacuum, it is a death sentence. With no outside pressure, the air trapped in your lungs would expand violently, rupturing the delicate tissue like an overinflated balloon. So the air rushes out, whether you want it to or not. Next comes something genuinely bizarre. The moisture on your tongue, your eyes, the lining of your mouth begins to bubble and boil. Not because it's hot, but because in a vacuum, water boils at body temperature. The liquid on the surface of your body quite literally turns to vapor. This effect has a name: ebullition. Bubbles of water vapor forming inside your bodily fluids and even in the soft tissue just beneath your skin. Your body would begin to swell, puffing up to nearly twice its normal size as those vapor bubbles expand under the skin. And this is where the movies get it most wrong. You do not burst. Your skin is tough and elastic, and it holds everything together. You swell, but you stay intact. For the first 10 seconds or so, you would actually still be conscious, aware, able to think and move and understand exactly what is happening to you. But with no pressure, your lungs can no longer push oxygen into your blood. In fact, they start pulling the last oxygen back out of it. It takes roughly 15 seconds for that oxygen-starved blood to travel from your lungs to your brain. And when it arrives, the lights go out. You lose consciousness, gently, almost peacefully, with no pain and no warning. From the outside, you would simply go limp and still. From here, you have a window, about 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, before the damage becomes permanent and death is certain. Repressurize within that window, get the air back around the body, and a person can survive. They can even recover completely, as if nothing had happened. Miss that window, and the vacuum finishes what it started. 15 seconds of awareness, 90 seconds to live. That is the real timeline of space. So if that's the truth, where did all the other ideas come from? The exploding bodies, the instant freezing, the blood boiling in a fountain of red. Let's start with the most famous myth of all. That space is so cold, you would freeze solid in seconds. It feels obvious, and it's completely wrong. Yes, space is unimaginably cold, hundreds of degrees below zero. But temperature and heat loss are two very different things. Here on Earth, you lose heat quickly because cold air and water carry it away from your skin. It's why a cold pool feels colder than cold air. But a vacuum is empty. There's no air, no water, nothing touching your skin to carry that heat away. A vacuum is actually one of the best insulators that exists. It's the exact same principle as the vacuum flask that keeps your coffee hot for hours. In space, your body can only lose heat slowly by radiating it away. So you would not freeze in seconds. The lack of air would knock you out and kill you long before the cold ever became the problem. Then there's the exploding body. The idea that without pressure, a person simply bursts apart. This one has a grain of truth twisted into fiction. Your body does swell. The gases and fluids inside you do expand. But your skin and your circulatory system are far stronger than people assume. They're built to hold pressure in. You would balloon outward, uncomfortably, dramatically, but you would remain very much in one piece. And the boiling blood. Your blood is sealed inside a closed, pressurized system, your veins and arteries. That internal pressure keeps it liquid. The boiling only happens to the exposed moisture on the surface, your saliva, your tears, the sweat on your skin. The blood deep inside you keeps flowing for a little while longer. So the real killer in space isn't cold and it isn't explosion, it's pressure. Or rather, the sudden and total absence of it. This danger doesn't even begin at the edge of space. It begins much closer to home, at an altitude pilots have a chilling name for. The Armstrong limit. Around 60,000 feet up, the air pressure drops so low that water boils at the temperature of the human body. Above that line, without a pressure suit, your body starts to fail in the exact same way it would in the vacuum of deep space. The killing begins long before the stars. Now, everything I've just told you might sound like theory. Careful calculations, educated guesses about something no human should ever survive, except for one thing. In 1965, it actually happened. To a man on Earth in a test that went horribly wrong, and he lived to describe every second of it. His name was Jim LeBlanc. He was a technician at NASA, testing a prototype spacesuit inside a massive vacuum chamber designed to simulate the emptiness of space. The chamber was slowly pumped down toward a near-perfect vacuum, the suit keeping him alive, pressurized and breathing, just as it would in orbit. And then the hose that pressurized his suit came loose. In an instant, the suit deflated. Jim was now exposed to something close to the raw vacuum of space. He would later say the last thing he remembered was the strangest sensation. The saliva on his tongue beginning to bubble and boil. Exactly as the physics predicts. About 14 seconds after the pressure dropped, Jim LeBlanc lost consciousness. But the team watching him understood the timeline perfectly. They knew about the 90-second window, and they moved immediately. They began repressurizing the chamber almost instantly, racing the clock, pumping air back into the void around his body. Within about 25 seconds, there was enough pressure for a fellow technician to reach him, and Jim LeBlanc began to wake up. He regained consciousness on his own with no lasting injuries, no frozen limbs, no ruptured body, just a mild earache and a story unlike any other. Jim LeBlanc had done what should have been impossible. He had been exposed to a vacuum and walked away to tell us what it truly feels like. His accident confirmed everything. The boiling saliva, the swift loss of consciousness, the narrow window of survival. The body doesn't explode, it quietly shuts down. But sudden exposure to a vacuum is the fast, dramatic threat. It's the one that makes the movies. The reality of living in space is a slower, stranger kind of danger. Because even inside a perfectly safe spacecraft, protected, pressurized, and breathing normally, space is still working to take the human body apart. Just gently and over months. The moment you reach orbit, one force that shaped every cell of your body for millions of years simply vanishes. Gravity. And your body, which spent a lifetime fighting to stand up against that pull, suddenly has nothing to fight. It responds by falling apart in slow motion. The first change happens within hours, and you can see it on an astronaut's face. On Earth, gravity constantly pulls your blood and fluids down toward your feet. In orbit, there is no down, So those fluids drift upward and settle in the head and chest. Astronauts get puffy, swollen faces and thin, spindly legs. They call it puffy face bird legs syndrome. It sounds funny, but that fluid shift also raises the pressure inside the skull, and that leads somewhere far more serious. The pressure begins to push on the back of the eyeballs, slowly flattening them and swelling the optic nerve. Astronauts' vision actually changes in space. Many return to Earth needing glasses they never needed before. Scientists call it spaceflight-associated nuclear syndrome, and for long missions to Mars, it's a genuine worry. Then there's your skeleton. Your bones are living tissue, constantly rebuilding themselves in response to the stress of gravity holding you up. Take gravity away, and your body decides those heavy bones are a waste of resources. It starts dissolving them, leaching the calcium away. An astronaut can lose 1 to 2% of their bone mass every single month. On a long mission, that's a catastrophic loss of strength. Your muscles waste away too. On Earth, just standing and walking gives them a constant workout. In weightlessness, even your heart barely has to work. And your heart is a muscle. With no gravity to pump blood against, it begins to shrink and even change shape, becoming more round and less powerful. This is why astronauts on the space station exercise for over 2 hours every single day, strapped to treadmills and resistance machines, not to stay fit, but to slow the decay. Even your sense of balance breaks down. Deep in your inner ear are tiny organs that tell you which way is up, using gravity. In space, they send nothing but confused, contradictory signals. For the first few days in orbit, many astronauts feel constantly sick and disoriented, their brains struggling to make sense of a world with no up and no down. But of all the slow dangers of space, there is one that is invisible, silent, and by far the most feared: radiation. The universe is filled with high-energy particles, blasted out by the sun and by dying stars across the galaxy. These cosmic rays travel at nearly the speed of light. Here on the surface, we are wrapped in two invisible shields: our thick atmosphere and the planet's powerful magnetic field, which deflect almost all of that radiation away from us. We evolved our entire existence beneath that protection. We have never known what it's like to live without it, but astronauts do. Out beyond that shield, cosmic rays pass straight through the walls of a spacecraft and straight through the human body, tearing through cells and shredding strands of DNA as they go. Every hit is a tiny act of destruction. Some cells repair themselves, some die, and some are damaged in just the wrong way, planting the seeds of cancer years later. Astronauts have even reported seeing brief flashes of light behind their closed eyes. That is a cosmic ray passing directly through their eyeball or their brain. On the space station, Earth's magnetic field still offers some protection. But on a journey to Mars, astronauts would spend years fully exposed, out in the open sea of radiation. It could raise their lifetime cancer risk dramatically, and studies suggest it may even damage the brain itself, affecting memory and thought. We are not built for that voyage, not yet. And then there is the toll we can't measure on a scan: the isolation, the confinement, living for months in a cramped metal can, millions of miles from every person you love. On the way to Mars, Earth would shrink to a pale blue dot, then to a single point of light. No quick rescue, no going home, just the crew, the dark, and the silence. The psychological weight of that is immense, and it may turn out to be one of the hardest problems of all. The mind, like the body, was made for Earth. So let's be honest about what we've found. Take a human body out of its cradle, and space attacks it from every direction at once. The vacuum can kill in minutes. Weightlessness melts your bones and shrinks your heart. Radiation quietly rewrites your DNA. The body is astonishingly fragile out there. And yet, we go anyway, and that raises the real question. If space is this hostile to the human body, how on earth do we survive out there at all? The answer, for now, is that we carry a tiny piece of Earth with us everywhere we go. That's what a spacesuit really is. It isn't just clothing. A modern spacesuit is a personal spacecraft wrapped around a single human being, and its most important job is simply to hold pressure. It surrounds you in a bubble of pressurized oxygen, recreating the gentle push of our atmosphere, so your fluids stay put and your lungs keep working. It shields you from the fierce, unfiltered sunlight, which can swing from scorching heat to freezing shadow, and it cools your body as you work. Every spacewalk is a person surviving the vacuum by the thinnest of margins, protected by a few carefully engineered layers of fabric and glass. Against the slower dangers, we fight back with routine, hours of daily exercise to preserve bone and muscle, carefully planned diets, constant medical monitoring from the ground. But for the great leap, a journey to Mars and beyond, these fixes may not be enough. And so engineers are dreaming much bigger. One idea is to give astronauts their gravity back by building spacecraft that slowly spin. That rotation would create an artificial gravity, tricking the body into feeling at home. Others are designing thick radiation shielding, or shelters where crews could hide from solar storms, even using the ship's own water and supplies as a protective wall. And on Mars itself, the first explorers may live underground or beneath thick domes, letting the planet's own soil shield them from the radiation pouring down from the sky. Every one of these challenges is really the same challenge, told a different way. How do you take a creature so perfectly tuned to Earth and keep it alive somewhere it was never meant to be? Some scientists believe that to truly live among the stars, we may eventually have to change the human body itself, to engineer ourselves to survive what we currently cannot. If you want to explore more of the science of survival beyond our world, you can follow the research coming out of NASA and the world's space agencies, and their channels for the latest from orbit. In the end, everything we've discovered points back to a single, humbling truth. The human body is not a general-purpose machine. It is a perfect fit for one specific world. Every heartbeat, every bone, every cell was shaped by this planet's gravity, its pressure, and its shelter. We are not just from Earth, we are made of it. Step outside that cradle, and the universe reminds us instantly and violently just how far from home we truly are. And yet, knowing all of this, we still reach outward. We still strap ourselves to rockets and fling our fragile bodies into the black. Because the same curiosity that lets us understand exactly how space could kill us is the very same curiosity that refuses to let us stay home. To go to the stars, we may have to become something new, something tougher, something that space itself cannot so easily take apart. But whatever we become out there, we will carry this planet inside us. The fragile, extraordinary body that Earth built, reaching for a sky it was never designed to touch.